So the goal, I think for most of you, the goal is to make, north of $500 to $1 million without having to meet with clients. Is anyone does not have that goal? Net. So not just any team, but a team based on business principles. So I got to a point where I think it was the year I sold 66 homes, and it happened to be 33 buyers and 33 sellers. But I got to the point where I sold 66, and I'm like, this is not sustainable at all. I mean, it's even if you give up buyers, I mean, just kind of working deals, they just come at times, the offers come in at times where it's just not cool. It's like Friday at 7 o'clock, and you're on date night, and an offer comes in, your client's not going to want to hear that you waited until, and then you got stuff with the family on Saturday, and you get them 2 o'clock on Saturday. It's just not cool. So leveraging yourself through better organization, delegation. So I spent a year, I learned like 2 things in a year with, anyone here of Harold Ware? So the corporate model is what he called it, where basically it has 3 features. He calls it the lifetime value. So I'm very clear that I want to control the relationship with all of our clients. We've got good agents and they deliver, a good service. But at the end of the day, I want them to say, man, Lars's team kicked ass. The Lars group kicked ass. And we've gotten in reviews from buyers that didn't mention their agent in the testimonial. Like, Lars did a great job, and it's just like, I've never met the person. I haven't worked with buyers in 3 years. So I do believe you need to control that experience with the client and control the lifetime value. So the company maintains the client's lifetime value, delivery of value proposition to consumer versus giving up control to your agents. More of the workflow is performed by admin staff. So we have a buyer client care coordinator and a listing client care coordinator. And so their job is to take as much as the admin off of the agents as possible. But the reason for doing so, it's a dollar productive activity thing, but it's also so we control the process. And so on the listing side, most of you, who has a listing coordinator and then a closing coordinator, like separates the process? We went to having one person, so we were surveying our clients, and they didn't like that at all. They felt like it was too many people, it was a little clunky. So on the listing side, we went to one person. So the listing person, they get the listing, the paperwork, they hand it to the listing client care coordinator, and that one person is going to take them all the way through closing, which has worked out really, really well. If you can afford to have sort of separate and even if your closing coordinator does your buyer closings, to have them control that whole process, I think is a smart move. So admin staff rather than do-it-all traditional agents, and inside sales as well. I mean, we're not all inside sales. And we'll talk about the different models that you can pursue. And there are different models. So there are teams that separate all prospecting from their agents. And there are teams that have no inside sales. But we do want to control a portion of that new business development regularly. Here's probably the biggest thing, is that even a lot of the smaller teams that have just started with me sort of are surprised by the commission splits we're able to get, the gross margin we're able to pull on the buyer side and the listing side. It's partially in the way you present it, but it's just value-based commission. And so that's my game now, is I'm always looking at gross margin, like all the time. Every time I open up my business tracker, I'm going to gross margin. I want to see if it's moving on either side. And I'm focused on where my agents are pulling business. And if my agents are getting a lot of business from their sphere, I just know it's a potential risk for my team. So if I've got one agent at 40%, which is like by far the highest, I've got one agent at 10% from her sphere. I know the agent at any moment that has 40% can be like, well, let me just not work as hard and kind of not have to do this stuff and just do this on my own. So just having that clarity is super important.